Thank you to all of you who stuck around for this digital transformation talk I'm about to give. It was a great time listening to the Vikings presentation because it's really actually relevant. And you talk about their digital transformation journey and even the fact that their scouting team saves 3 days. They get 3 days back in their life through using technology. So digital transformation, the race to differentiate. We are living in a globalized economy today, and it's never been more important for us to understand what it takes for us to get ahead of our competition. So first, I'm going to step us through a little bit of history, starting with the first industrial revolution. We had steam power and we had mechanization, two huge things that transformed the world during that time. Steam power obviously led us to have locomotives, quicker transportation. No longer took us a month to get across the United States. And then mechanization allowed us to essentially power our factories using hydropower. So belts running through the factory that essentially turned all the machinery, allowed us to create goods that we didn't have to do by hand anymore. Fast forward 100 years, we've got electrical energy, we've got the assembly line, and we've got mass production. So electricity allows us now to get rid of those rivers. We can put our factories anywhere we want now. We don't rely on rivers. We've got the assembly line. Henry Ford identified this and created this assembly line that essentially broke down each of the parts of a car, which has 100 different parts, and allowed him to be way more efficient and way faster than any of his competition. He outsold his competition so much that they were trying to buy him, and he said, "No, I got you." And then mass production, again, these factories now can be built anywhere. We can now build goods on a grander scale than we were ever able to before. Fast forward another 100 years. We've got electronics, we've got computers, and we've got automation. Electronics and computers essentially have changed our world during this time frame. We now are going to the moon with the help of computers. Unless, of course, you don't believe that we actually went to the moon. If you're a conspiracy theorist, that's fine, but I'm willing to bet that the film that you believe was made utilized electricity, electronics, and computers. And then automation. With computers and automation, we're now able to send goods down our production lines and manufacturing without having to have a person at every single station. It allowed us to be faster, more efficient, and more precise. And then 40 years later, the fourth industrial revolution, where we're at today. Cyber physical systems, the Internet of Things, and networks. IoT has made such a big impact in our world that we are having so much data being pumped in. It allows us to do things like big data. Get in there, look at the data, understand the information, have predictions based on historical data, and then try to change the way we do business. So let's talk a little bit about what digital transformation really means. What's this concept that we talk about? It has to do with people, it has to do with processes, goods and services, and some of the technology that drives it. So first and foremost, it truly is about making better business decisions and having better business outcomes. It's about improving experiences, both internally for our employees and externally for our customers. It's about providing better products and better services. We're in a globalized economy. Our competition is no longer right next door. It's now all over the world. In the banking environment, I no longer have to go into a bank. I can now open an account online. It's that true. And now we need to differentiate. Why are we so much better than anyone else? And then finally, it's about evolving into your 2.0. Who are you reinventing yourself as? What digital transformation is not? It's not necessarily about saving money. You may find you have to spend more money. Sometimes you have to spend money to make money. It's not necessarily about building that cool, flashy web app, that new website, or that new thing that we think is going to revolutionize the world. As a matter of fact, it's not necessarily about technology at all. Technology is just the enabler. The transformation comes from within your organization. So let's break it down to some components. We've got the vision, we've got strategy, and we've got execution. Now, you can't have a strategy or a good strategy without having a true vision of what it is that you're trying to accomplish. You can't execute very well if you haven't built a strategy. And you can't execute very well as well without having a good execution team. So there's a lot of thought that needs to go into this digital transformation that we think of today. So how are we going to do it? We're going to look at these 4 things: engaging and transforming, optimizing, and empowering. The first one, engage your customers. Look outside your walls and understand what's going on in your industry, what's going on locally. Ask your customers what it is about your organization that they believe sets you apart. What is it about your competition that sets them apart? Why are their goods and services so much better? What are you missing? Next, it's about taking that information and transforming your goods and your services. If your competition has a better product, you, by getting this feedback, have the information to essentially change what you're delivering and take it to that next level and leapfrog your competition. You need to take a look internally and start optimizing your operations. Now, change is hard for a lot of people, especially if we've been in an organization for a long time. We kind of get comfortable in the day-to-day, and essentially, we don't want to change. But we need to stop that mentality. You need to start stepping in and understanding that in order for your organization to really move forward, you need to be okay with change. And how do you do that? By creating a culture of change. How do you create that culture? You start empowering your employees. Listen to them. Your employees are those frontline workers that are in the trenches day to day. They know what's wrong. They'll tell you what's wrong. You just need to ask them. And you need to listen. You need to take that into account when you start moving some of these things forward. So I'm going to briefly talk a little bit about internal versus external. Again, customers versus your internal employees and some of the differentiating things. So when we talk internal, drive better collaboration. If you're still relying on email as your primary means of communication internally, you're kind of missing the boat a little bit. There are plenty of applications out there today that allow you to collaborate a whole lot easier. Think Microsoft Teams. Think Cisco WebEx. Think Slack. These tools have been built for a newer generation that wants to get information faster. If they're working on a project together, they want to get feedback right away. We often find ourselves sending an email, we're also busy in our day-to-day, only to get back to it at the end of the day, look at it, and then give that feedback. Make data accessible. We're in the age of information technology. There is data all over the place. Find a way to bring that data together and make it presentable to your employees. That way they can make better decisions, faster decisions. Access to better tools. Some of us have had the same tools in our organization for 10, 20 years. We don't want to change it because, it just kind of works. Well, does it really? What are you missing? What are the new technologies out there, new platforms that bring so many more efficiencies into your organization? How much automation can you add in? Better internal processes. There's probably nothing more frustrating for an employee when they have to go sit through a really old process that to them doesn't make any sense, but you've got an extra 4 steps. You've got to copy this piece of paper, send your TPS report in, and be done. Change it. Step back. Look, listen. There are so many things out there that we can automate today with products that you probably already have in your portfolio. If you're a Microsoft Office 365 customer, you've got Microsoft Flow and Power Apps and some of these other things that are being talked about today in some of the breakout sessions that allow you to optimize and automate some of your processes. Again, your employees. Your frontline workers, your day-to-day employees understand what it is that you're extremely inefficient with. They're going to know the things that you need to change. Listen. Switching to outside your organization, again, what your customers are looking for today are smoother, faster transactions. They don't want to have to call up and ask for the information. They don't want to have to wait 3 or 4 days for something to be turned around. Again, we live in a globalized economy where technology has literally given them the answers to just about everything at their fingertips with their phone. The instant gratification, thing that we're dealing with today. Get it, I want it now, I want it now. Make sure that you give them that ability. They're looking for the superior products and services. Some of the born-in-the-cloud companies have a lot of these things pre-built because they didn't have to go through the evolutions that some of us have had to go through. Understand those things. Take a look. Again, listen to them. Tap your customers. Ask them for help with identifying those things. Dig in a little bit. If you've got similar products with your competition, what differentiates you? What differentiates them? Why are they so much better, or why are you so much better? If you are better, great. Figure out what your roadmap is to stay there. So I'm going to talk about some real-life successes real quick. Obviously, the Minnesota Vikings was one great example of a digital transformation, and they're still going through it. The question was asked this just a little bit ago, are you guys doing machine learning? Not yet. Okay, that's fair. That's part of the roadmap in the digital transformation. So as you can see, I've got some pretty big names here, and we take a look at the first one, Microsoft. Believe it or not, Microsoft was faced with a pretty big challenge several years back. When Amazon came out, AWS, they led the market with cloud services. They had everything there. As a matter of fact, they built their business on it. Their stores and everything else was built on their technology. Microsoft found themselves in a situation where they were behind the 8 ball. They needed to evolve. So what did they do? They understood they needed to stop just providing off-the-shelf box software. They needed to start looking at subscription-based software, things like Microsoft Office 365 and Azure. And they started to build this product portfolio today that puts them right on par with Amazon. If you look at their growth over a 5-year period, they've grown 258%. For an organization that size to get that kind of growth is pretty monumental. The next one down the list is Hasbro. Anybody recognize that name from board games back when you were a kid? A little bit of Candyland, some of those fun things, Chutes and Ladders, board games, right? Pretty analog things in the digital age. How were they able to get themselves moving forward? They recognized that, hey, in order for us to succeed in this period, we need to do things a little bit different. So they started investing in films, things like Transformers or G.I. Joe, and that really took off and allowed them to spread their brand a little bit. Additionally, the analog games turned into digital games, online gaming. They have online games now. So for them, if you look over a period of 7 years, a board game manufacturer has a little over 200% growth. And finally, Best Buy. How many of you used to walk into Best Buy and use that as your Amazon show floor? Go out, you touch the products, you say, hey, I like this, I'm going to leave, go buy it on Amazon. Right here, I was one of them. I don't do that anymore, quite honestly. Sure, I'll buy things on Amazon, but I no longer use Best Buy for that purpose. They changed, they created this in-store experience. You've got your Apple experience, you've got your Samsung experience, your Microsoft experience, and they really brought these things in a way that allowed a customer to really get involved with the technologies, understand them, and then through that, they've been able to grow their sales. On a 7-year period, they're up almost 200%. Best Buy, a box store that, quite frankly, most of the world thought they were kind of on the way out, but they're not. They're here. So what did all these companies have in common? Number one, they understood they needed to evolve. They saw the fact that their competition was hurting them pretty good. Number two, they had the desire to evolve. Think about an organization of that size in creating monumental change. Majority of us in this room have a hard enough time getting our organizations to move as well. Compound that by thousands of employees, and I suspect that there's going to be a pretty big difference. They identified what needed to change, and then they made it happen. They created that culture of change. Let's talk about some extinct companies, ones that you would have thought, boy, they should be really making it now. Kodak. How many of you realize that Kodak actually had an online photo sharing site? They didn't capitalize on that. The Instagrams, the Facebooks of the world, those are the people that they went all in on these technologies where Kodak was over here. No, we're still film people. Yeah, you can share your photos online digitally, but we're still film people. Talking about missing the boat, holy crap. Photos are being shared all the time now. I mean, how many of you are sending photos every day, uploading them, grandma and grandpa or aunts and uncles, about the kids, Halloween costumes, things like that. It's amazing. The missed market opportunity there is tremendous. Sears, it's a recent one. Again, losing out into all those online retailers. They were in such a position to be able to do something, but they failed. Finally, Toys R Us. How do you fail at toys? Everybody wants toys. Kids are crazy about them. But they failed to digitally transform. Amazon pretty much ate their lunch. If Toys R Us could have created a digital transformation strategy, they would still be here today. So let's talk about some digital transformations in different industries and how we can apply some things. We've got manufacturing, we've got banking, we've got healthcare, and then we've got legal. So on the manufacturing side, IoT isn't necessarily anything that's brand new, but think about the way that they're able to transform their businesses with this. So think about a little microcontroller, an IoT device sitting on a piece of production hardware that's measuring the vibrations on the equipment. And this IoT device knows that these vibrations should be within this threshold. Once it starts stepping out of that threshold, we know, hey, there's a problem. What do we do about it? We get in there and we fix that problem. What happens if that machine goes down? It takes down the production line. What happens when you take down a production line? You'll lose money. So IoT and all the data that's being gathered from each of those devices on a production line, going in and understanding that the data there is telling you things. You just need to know how to listen to it. Oops. Trying to flip it back. There we go. Financial. So a large local organization recently understood the need to transform their business so that their customers would have a better experience. They're a pretty big organization. They're in all sorts of industries, retirement, insurance, banking, just day-to-day banking, like 12 different things. But unfortunately, a customer would have to have a separate login for each of these things. From a customer's perspective, that's pretty frustrating. I can hardly remember the last 5 passwords I used, let alone 12 for one organization. So what'd they do? They essentially understood that they needed to bring all of these things together. They built a single interface for their consumers that made that login experience, regardless of what product you were going to check out, a single login. It's now all brought together. It's a great unified experience. Healthcare, this thing, I think we might hear a little bit about it later today, but TitoCare, anybody familiar with that? It's a $300 device that you can buy at Best Buy today that allows you to do self-examinations. With this device, you're able to plug it into your phone and send results into your doctor. You can hop online with your doctor, a little video chat, and they'll diagnose you. And I'm not talking about simple, my head's a little stuffy or my nose is runny. We're talking real medical problems. You no longer have to leave your house. Think about that from a customer experience. Some people are scared of doctors the way it is, or they just flat out, they're busy. They don't want to have to go into the doctor. It's a pretty big revolution. Then let's talk legal. Think of a lawyer who has a fairly large case, and they might have 30 boxes of documents that they've got to go through and understand what each of these things is, how do they correlate to this case. How much time do you think that's going to take? Well, if they digitize the documents, put them through, pull it together in this big data set, utilizing big data, they can apply machine learning that can pick out keywords in those documents and cut that time down dramatically. They no longer have to go through all of those docs, all of those boxes of paper. They can now focus in on the things that they really need. Some pretty big differences. You talk about experiences all the way across, internally, externally, from a manufacturing perspective to a legal to a banking. Digital transformation is everywhere, and whether you believe you're doing it today or not, chances are pretty good you're doing a piece of it. But you really need to focus more and understand what are the things that you need to do to truly transform your business. Share a little experience I had recently. It was actually within the last month. I had ordered something from Amazon, and Amazon said, hey, your package has been delivered. Great. I go look for it. There's no package. All right, so I go online and check out my order, click the button where the product is. It says, yes, track shipment was delivered. Great. So I got a package that was delivered that really wasn't delivered. So what did I do? Like any consumer would. Hopped online. I went and I looked for their chat. I pulled up the chat, and immediately that chat said, hi, Mr. Todd, are you looking for your package XYZ? Yeah, I am. Okay. Did you find it at your front door? No, I didn't. Okay. Would you like us to send a new one, or would you like a refund? It was less than $10. Just refund me. I'll figure it out later. Okay. Done. In less than 30 seconds, no joke. I had a chatbot interfacing with me, and I was able to get a refund into my account. And this thing knew right away what I was talking about. I didn't click on the product and then go to chat. Somehow in the back end of their system, they knew my last click and understood that, hey, I was looking for this thing. Now, talk about a digital transformation in a customer experience. Holy cow. I couldn't have called in less time than that, just to have someone answer the phone. And today's generation is really looking for more of those types of interactions. So consider the technologies today, chatbots, machine learning, AI, big data, all of these buzzwords, they're a thing. Start figuring out how you can leverage them to really break apart. So my challenge to you today here is to think differently than you've ever thought before. Some of us have been in the game for a while. We think we know our industry, and matter of fact, we probably do know our industry, but we don't. What we probably are missing is how our industries have changed. So the big part of it, get comfortable with change. In our digital age today, change is really the only constant that we're faced with. Things are evolving around us all the time. Look both internally and externally. There are so many changes that you can do today that you're probably unaware of. You've got the products at your fingertips right now, and you probably have subscriptions to half of them that could really revolutionize your business. Listen to your employees. I think this is something that we take for granted. Your employees are really what drives your business. They're the frontline workers. They understand the frustrations. When there's that old process that is essentially what they consider to be broken, they're the ones that are getting frustrated with it. Ask them, listen to them. They'll tell you. Listen to your customers. Listen well, listen with intent, because your customers are there to tell you what it is that you're doing well or what it is that you're not doing well. They will share that information if you ask. This is your opportunity for reinvention. This digital age, this fourth industrial revolution, is such an incredible time. I mean, if we took a look at the first three industrial revolutions, there was like 100 years between them. There was only 40 years between the last one and now, and that change is only happening faster. We need to keep up with it. We need to understand what's going on in our world. So my ask of you today, what will be your digital transformation? What is your 2.0? How will you stay in business? How will you stay relevant today and tomorrow? Thank you.